It recently made news when the Federal Reserve of the United States talked about using XRP. Senior Vice President David Antifolto from the Federal Reserve Branch in St. Louis talked about how Ripple could be used to handle payments. It was made clear that Ripple relies on XRP to make these transactions possible. In David Antifolt's words, the Federal Reserve could use Ripple to handle payments, give payment duties to a third party like Ripple. If this happens, the value of XRP could go up a lot, maybe even reaching $10,000 0 cents. It's also important to remember that the Federal Reserve's move doesn't come as a surprise. A few weeks or maybe a month ago, the Federal Reserve made a formal statement recognizing that XRP and XLM are similar. Fed's blockchain part could use some work. The payment service Ripple is getting a lot of attention for its open source technology for transactions and creative ways to make cross-border payments. Adding Ripple's technology to the Fed could help make it better. Now, the payment service is likely to be a big reason why XRP's value goes to unimaginable heights. Welcome to Money Family, your go-to place for all things XRP. To join our group, please hit the like button, subscribe, and notifications buttons before we start. Also, when we reach 60,000 fans, we'll be giving away a lot of XRP. To place your bid, make sure you do all three of those things. Leave a message with the money site to make sure you get a spot. Let's get right to today's topic, Ripple's partnership with the Federal Reserve, which was made official on the Federal Reserve website. The study's title was The U.S. Path to Faster Payments, and its first part was called The Faster Payment Task Force Approach. It says that Ripple is an important part of finding ways to make payments faster, ways to work with the Federal Reserve. The report talks about Ripple's unique ability to allow real-time foreign payments. Usually, these kinds of transfers take 2 to 4 days and are hard to keep track of and understand. Ripple changes this by letting you see the full status of payments and fees and settling them right away. Many things that viewers can pause and read back up the claim that Ripple and the Federal Reserve have expanded their partnership to include funds in the United States. One very important part of this study talks about how central banks like the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, and the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority work with Ripple to improve the payment system in the country. The research also talks about Ripple Labs' new ideas for processing payments at the most basic level, with a focus on giving people around the world a free, real-time settlement infrastructure. The Federal Reserve wants to use Ripple's decentralized peer-to-peer settlement framework, which means it will replace the current system. Different ways to send money. There were early signs of this change when we look back. A Federal Reserve piece on Fox News about exploring a digital US about a year ago showed the Ripple logo go a lot. The Federal Reserve Board, the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, has added Ripple to their list of partners who work in the shadows. This shows that they are interested in Ripple's technology. As you learn more about the interesting world of global banking, it becomes clear that the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, is in charge of a lot of the world's money. Ripple's move into this field is a big move. It's from the Interior Department and quotes Jess Chan, a senior council member at the Fredericksburgshire Board of Governors and former Deputy General Counsel at Ripple, is said to be in charge of this project. For those who like to know the details, there's a lot to unpack here, but it all seems to fit together pretty well. Yes, but that's just the start. Many of you might be shocked by what I'm about to say. The Federal Reserve recently warned that banks could lose money due to rising interest rates and difficulties in the real estate market. It's interesting that they've been talking about this with a number of partners since early March. It also looks like BRICS and the EU will use XRP. According to several stories, XRP's value is about to go through the roof. The European Union has even said that it will be the basis for the new digital euro, with the XRP ledger being used to handle wealth transfers. In the short term, a well-known expert says it will go up to $500.50, and it could hit $10.00 in the long term. Artur Bruto, one of the founders of Ripple, is said to have had the idea that $10,000.00 would be worth $10.00 as it spreads around the world. As we watch the movie, it's clear that the story of XRP is changing quickly. Now that the SEC case against Ripple is over, the BRICS countries have decided to work with Ripple to build their central bank digital currency on the XRP system. The central bank, a digital currency backed by BRICS, will be a major tool for global finance, and Ripple's large network can be seen in every BRICS country, which we will look into in more detail. Let's start our trip in Brazil, where a very important event took place. The country launched a revolutionary crypto on-demand liquidity service with the help of Ripple. The project has made a big difference in the country's financial technology scene. The next country we'll talk about is Russia. There is a lot of evidence that President Putin has changed his plans to move away from the petrodollar and the USD. This is because SWIFT wouldn't let Russia use its payment system, and there has been a clear shift toward Ripple Labs on XRP is a system. The goal is to create a Russian CBDC, or central bank digital currency. This goes against the SWIFT ban and also makes use of the fact that the XRP ledger is open. This way, Russia can stay a part of global banking while the focus shifts to India. India's huge project to make the rupee digital is driven by Ripple, which is in charge of another big project. India's efforts to create a global CBDC are taking a big step forward with this project, which is based on Ripple Labs technology. But that's not the end of the story. China has also joined the fight and is working with Ripple to get into the world of digital currencies issued by state banks. This shows that the same thing is happening in Africa. The 2022 African blockchain study shows that CBDCs are becoming more important on the XRP ledger all over the continent. The report says that South Africa and more than a dozen other African countries use Ripple and XRP to make transactions. Money paid. The fact that the ledger is being used by so many people shows how important it is becoming in Africa's banking system. Finally, XRP was named one of the best digital assets for payment services in a recent study by the BRICS group. There have been a lot of price predictions for XRP lately, which makes it even more clear that it is a big player in the world of cryptocurrencies in light of recent events. We were interested in some of these statements, like the idea that XRP will be worth $500.00 in 5 years. To find out more, we did a lot of research and found an interesting source. A well-known AI bot called ChatGPT said that the rates of the cryptocurrency XRP, Ripple, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano will all grow by a huge 100,000% by 2024. The price of XRP shouldn't be a surprise, especially when you consider what one of Ripple's co-founders,